Hey guys, it's John at Goose Creek Cycle. We are looking today at an interesting little bike. This is the Allez Sprint comp. They make this in a disc and non-disc version. The feature of this frame that's kind of interesting is the welds. They use a D'Alorizio, I don't know how to pronounce it, smart weld, which moves the welds away from your typical stress points, and then which should make the frame in theory lighter and more rigid. Now Specialized will build this as an aluminum frame that is lighter than your sort of inexpensive carbon frames. So I thought we'd today put that a little bit to the test. Before we do that, my first impression of this is just sort of looks weird where those welds are, but it's a nice aero frame, and when I got on it, it is really a fast bike. So I've been really happy riding one of these. So anyway, they really only make one build kit with these. You can buy them frame only, or with this 105 build. Alright, so MSRP on this bike is $1,900. And let's compare it to some carbon, shall we? Okay, so we took this frame, well, this whole bike, but a complete bike. This is as stocked from Specialized. Stuck it up on a scale, and we are at 19.11 pounds. Okay, and again, this is an aluminum frame. It's got a carbon fork, same fork they use in their tarmac. 105 build, GT Swiss rims, and what are they using for hubs on this? Just sort of a generic hub, so it's a reasonably nice wheel, but nothing crazy over the top. And Praxis cranks, and just some stock pedals. So let's have a look at what that does compared to some carbon. Okay, the bike we've thrown in the stand right now on the scale is the Khs Flight 700. This is a carbon fiber frame. It is not an aero frame like the Sprint is, and it's actually a step down in components. This uses, instead of a 105 build, this is a Tiagra build. We're using the Q2 in-house wheels, and we're using, what crank is this? This is a Tiagra crank, so it's a full Tiagra crank, brakes and everything. So if we compare them, this bike is just a smidge heavier than the aluminum bike. So then the question becomes, how much of that is frame and how much of that is component group? But the idea is here, so this is a MSRP on this bike is $1,700. So if we compare MSRP to MSRP, these bikes are about $200 difference, with the Specialized being a little bit more, but they are the same weight, and essentially the same weight. One's aluminum with the aero, and one is carbon, and the difference here is the component group. So that, short of stripping these frames down, which I'm not going to do because it's a little bit silly to do that just to weigh them. The choice is, do you want to spend approximately the same money, maybe a smidge more, and get a nicer component group and an aero frame at the same weight as a carbon fiber frame with a little bit downgraded components? And I think it's a toss-up, because then the next question is, what happens if we take and upgrade the components on this frame? Okay, and this is actually a little bit embarrassing, because what I've done is grabbed, this is actually my bike, and I've left off the pedals, but I've left on my water bottle cages, and light, so we kind of balance out there. But if we look at these two bikes, this is a more similar build to that Specialized Allez Sprint. It's a 105 build all the way around, 105 crank, 105 shifters with an Ultegra derailleur. So in theory, and 105 brakes instead of the Tektro that are on the other bike. So in theory, this should be a lighter bike because it is carbon frame. What we're finding though is it is actually still heavier than that the Specialized aluminum bike. All these are 56 bikes, so the frame size is all the same. And now I'm thinking, where's my extra weight? And I'm guessing it's probably in my wheels. But what we're finding with all of this is that the weight we're saving by going to carbon is not as much as maybe we thought it was, because all these bikes are within 0.2 of a pound of each other, and sort of no matter how we slice it, that aluminum Specialized frame build is coming in lighter than the others. Okay, and just as a final piece of this puzzle, this is the Khs Flight 500. It's significantly less at retail than any of the others. It's also 54, so it's a little bit smaller, so it should be lighter just based on size, but it's a 105 build. 105 cranks, 105 shifters all the way across. And it's actually pretty much an identical build to what's on my carbon fiber bike. And it's coming in about a half pound heavier than the carbon fiber bike with the same build. It's also a similar build to that Specialized Sprint. So, which was a 105, also a 105 build. So the wheels are the only kind of difference there, but they're similar in weight. So this frame here is a non-aero aluminum frame, is close to 3/4 of a pound heavier than that Sprint when it's built up. So is there some flux between the parts? Yes. So without stripping down and doing frame only on all these, whatever, but they're all within 3/4 of a pound of each other. But when you start looking at getting an aero frame and such, it's it's just that 3/4 of a pound is significant weight savings. So the question is, what do you do? Do you get the carbon with the nicer build? Do you get, for the same money, the carbon with lower quality components and a heavier bike? Or do you get the Specialized Sprint? It'll be different for every one of you, but for me, I'm actually having a little bit of a harder look at that Sprint than I did when it first came in. It took me a little bit to get past the look of it, but the aero and the weight savings are enough to make me think about considering going back to an aluminum frame. Okay, thanks for joining us for today's little science experiment. If you want to try and ride some of these, come on in. We have some here. You can take them out for a spin around the block and see what you think. And we'll see you soon.